In this unit of our InDesign CS6 course, what we're going to do is we're going to set up a signature field on our interactive PDF form, as well as give it a couple of options for doing quick proofs that we're working with to find out what this is going to look like to our respondents to our student order form, as well as fine-tune any mistakes that we might have dialed into the process. Let me begin by going Control-0 to get in the Fit in Window view. And what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to create a brand new signature field right here. I'm going to get my rectangle tool, and I'm going to draw a rectangle. Just like so. Adjust it a little bit so it's centered. And now I'm going to go to my Buttons and Forms panel and change this rectangle into a signature field. Now, I've got some options here that I'm not going to use. I could make this signature read-only. The only problem with that is if I chose that option, I wouldn't be able to digitally sign it later. And I could make it required, which I may want to do for internal purposes, for forms routing. But for something I'm going to ship out to the general public, folks may not be able to actually digitally sign this form, so I'm not going to choose that option. We're only going to leave the printable option here, so people could see if they actually printed this finished form, they could see their digital signature, if they have one created, right inside this frame. Now I want to do one more thing here, and I want to format this space before I place my digital signature. So I'm going to take the stroke around here, and I'm going to make that 0 points. That's going to give it a stroke of none. And I'm going to take the fill for that, and I'm going to change that from none to Pantone 288. And I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to give it a screen of 10%, just like I would have had if I was working with this before. So now this corresponds to the layout we have for all of the rest of the fill-in fields that we've built into our total training student order form. I'm going to save this work. So I'm going to go File, Save, and now I'm going to go through a couple of options that we have for seeing how this is going to work. The first option for a preview is actually listed right down here at the bottom of the Buttons and Forms panel, the Preview Spread button. If I click on that, what it'll do is it'll create a artificial SWF flash file where I can see an approximation of what this form is going to look like. Now, as I look at it here, I can see a couple of options. For example, I wanted to create a default setting to where this box is checked. It doesn't look like it's there like that right now when we're working with this SWF preview of the form. And also, I don't want to check any of these options. I want them to be able to choose any or all of these, or if they prefer, none of these options when they fill out this form. So I can get a proof, and this gives me a rough idea of what I've done to design my student order form, but it doesn't necessarily give me true proof of the pudding. For me to be able to do that, let me scale this down very quickly. What I want to do is I'm actually going to create a proof version of my interactive PDF form. So I'm going to go File, Export. The keyboard shortcut for that is Control-E if you're working on a Windows PC, Command-E if you're working on a Mac. And this will open up the Export dialog box. Now in this case, I'm going to create one that's called Randy9 Proof.pdf. And I'm going to save that type. Now I've got a number of options to do that, but in this case I'm going to save it as an interactive Adobe PDF. Now I already have a proof file here in my Chapter 9 Project Files folder. I'm going to replace it. You just click Save. Doing that gives me the option to save all the pages in my InDesign document, or a range of them. We only have a one-page document, so it really doesn't matter which one of these I pick. I can save pages or spreads. Again, it doesn't matter because I have a single page document. I could choose to view it after exporting. I'm not going to select that. We know we're placing our proof in the Chapter 9 folder. I'm just showing you the export options right now. I can embed page thumbnails, which will give me a little synopsis view in Adobe Acrobat, or create layers. I have a number of options for the view that people will see when they first open up my interactive PDF form. I can make it anything from actual size to whatever default is set in the program to 100% or smaller zoom sizes to fit width, which I've set later for an option. I'm just going to take fit page for my option. And I have multiple options for how I'd lay that out, but again, I have a single page document, so it really doesn't matter. I could add a series of really spiffy page transitions if I had a multi-page PDF. So it could, for example, dissolve from one to the next if I wanted to go from page 1 to page 2, but since I don't have a page 2, that really doesn't matter. And I have options for resampling pixel-based images that are loaded inside my InDesign document when I export that interactive PDF form. Since both the Total Training Online and Total Training Graphics are encapsulated PostScript vector-based files, this really doesn't come into play. I'm just going to say OK, and what it's going to do is it's going to fire up a little warning. Because we set this up for conventional printing with spot colors and CMYK blends, it's going to let me know that the colors are going to be automatically converted to RGB for interactive PDF files. If I want to avoid any color shifts, I could click Cancel and choose Document RGB from the Edit Transparency Blend Space menu. We're just creating a proof, so I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to click OK to continue and let InDesign make that color transition automatically.